Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to use the GoHighLevel V2 API to get free slots and book events in your calendar using Make.com. Now there are two ways to do this. One is using OAuth and the other one is to use a private integration token. I'm going to be showing you the private integration token method, as there are other guides available that will show you the OAuth method. And so the first thing we want to do is go into settings, and then we want to go to private integrations, and we want to create a new API key. So let's go book or check and book calendar. There we go. Next. Now the scopes we want to choose are calendar scopes. So let's go view calendars, edit calendars, view calendar events, edit calendar events, and do the same for groups as well. And creates. Now we want to copy this API key. We're going to be using it a lot. So next, what we need to do is we want to do a test to make sure that we can use the API first before going into Make.com. To do that, go into the docs for the API, which is this link over here, and then go to calendar and events, explore the calendar API. Then we want to go to the free slots section. So now what you want to do is we want to take that token that we just generated and put it over here. Now we want to get the calendar ID. This is the ID for the calendar that we want to get the information for. So to do this, to get this information, we can go to our calendars in GoHighLevel, and this is still in the settings. And over here with our calendars, we can get the ID by just copying this over here, put it in calendar ID. Now the start date and end date, we need this information in the millisecond format. So what do I mean by that? Well, if I go over here, this is called timestampconverter.com. We can see that we have our time in ISO 8601 format. Well, that's not the current time. Let me put in our current date. I think I was on the 4th before, so we left it there. So this is our time in ISO 8601 format. We also have the time in Unix format, and then the time in milliseconds, which is just that multiplied by 1,000. So what we want to do is get our start time. So let's start on the 30th of August, and we'll take that millisecond time, and we put that into the start date. Then let's get another day, 5 days out from that. So let's go September. And let's get that millisecond as well. Then for the version, you want to go to just the default 2021-04-05, and then we can send our API request. And now what we'll do, or we'll get back, is all the available slots. So if I go to here and I go to our calendar, so here I'm back in GoHighLevel, and if I go back and go to our calendar, we can see that on the 2nd we have booked out from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And so these free slots will only show, they won't show 10:30 and they won't show 10 a.m. as well, because those slots are booked out. We'll also notice that it's only going up for even the ones that are fully available from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And this is because this particular calendar in GoHighLevel, the availability is set to 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So to find that availability, you can go to the calendars, again, where we got the ID from. Now you can go into the calendar and go to availability, and then you can see 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So that's why those availabilities are always showing as 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So next what we want to do is we want to get this working in Make.com. So to do that, we can go to a new scenario, and let's call this check and book calendar PHL. Now let's create a new set variable module. So let's go set multiple variables. This one, what we're going to be doing is we want to set the start and the end time in milliseconds. So essentially what we're doing is just re-implementing the same information that we just got, but doing it in Make now. So end time ms. And to do this, here's one I prepared earlier. We can use the format date function. And if you want to get this, you can find it in one of these fields over here, format date, and then go for now. So format date, now, this formats it into Unix format, and then multiplies it by 1,000 to get it in milliseconds. And we can do the same thing for the end date, 5 days out. In this case, we're just using the add days function to add 5 days into it. So now we've got our start time in milliseconds and our end time in milliseconds. So next, what we want to do is we want to make an API call. Now, GoHighLevel has inbuilt modules for make.com, but a lot of them don't really deal with the calendar very well. So we need to make an API request. To do that, go to the HTTP module and go to make a request. Now, OAuth2, if you were using the OAuth2 method, you would use this module, but because we're just making a basic, using the private integration token, we can just use the make a request function. Now for the URL, what we want to do is go to command that we ran before, and let's open this up, and let's copy this URL over here. And then, so this has got our calendar's ID, and it's got the start date in milliseconds and the end date in milliseconds. So we want to replace this number with the time that we've just calculated as start now, and then the end date as our end time in milliseconds. Now for our headers, we want to put in the authorization, the version. So our method will be get. So authorization. Grab the API key, and this time when we're doing a make, we have to put in the word bearer in front of it. So bearer and then a space and then our API key. Then for version, you're going to go version, and it is 2021-0405 or 15 rather. And that is all we need. Once we run that, we should now get our slots coming back. If I go into here, oops, didn't work. 1 second. So I put in end time and end time both, but I need to put in start time and end time. So now if I save that, that should now work. And that's come through. And we can see the data is a little bit messy, but we can clean it up and make it look a little bit nicer by pressing fast response. Now if we're on that, should come out all nice. And we can see the availabilities and see that those times also are not available. Now, there is one step further you can go with this. So on this calendar, we just have one user. However, if we had multiple users, we can also get the specific availability for the specific users. So let me just, as an example, add another user to this calendar. So to do that, I'm just going to go to settings and calendars. And then I'm going to go and edit this calendar. And I will add myself as a member of the calendar. Now, if I go and run this again, now if I go to the slots, it's going to show that those time periods, the 10 a.m. and 10:30, which were previously not available, are now available. And the reason why is because now that I'm a member of this team, even though this time was booked out for Jeff, the fact that I have this availability now means that it is showing as available. Now, but if I was to add a new event at that time, so, and let's go for, here we go. It's 10 a.m. So if I book that appointment, oops, let's put this in again. Now if I refresh that, it should come up. And we've got our test meeting, which is in there as string. Now, if I was to go and search or check this availability again, it would now show that this time, 10 o'clock specifically, is not available because now both team members have been booked at that time. Now, let me just delete that. And I can show you how you can find the individual availability for each individual person on your round robin calendar. So this is a specific type of calendar which allows you to have multiple people. So the way we can do that is by using a user ID. So if I go over here and I add a query string and just see what the actual type is again. So user ID. We can find the individual user IDs by checking the URL in our calendar. You can also get it using the get calendar module, which is also in the API. But over here, if I was to uncheck this and see the user IDs field, I'd be able to get this string of characters, which is my user ID. And if I was to put that into there and run that, I can then find the availability specifically for that one person. So in this case, no slots available at 10 and 10:30 because they're booked out. However, if I was to use my user ID, which has availability at the time, and again, all of them will come up here. So now my one has appeared after the comma. Check that user ID. Then you can see that on that second, I now have availability over there because we're just checking my calendar now. So yeah, that just goes to show that you can use individual IDs in order to make sure you don't double book your stuff. So let me just rename this to check availability. And that's how you get the availability for the calendar. Next, we're going to show you how to book an appointment in the calendar. So going back to the API, let's go to calendar events here on the left-hand side and go to create an appointment. Now this one's a little bit more complicated. There's a lot more going on, but I'll run you through it. So we've got our base URL, we've got our authorization token, which is the same one as before. We put in our version as the same. Now let's make this discovery call. When you're doing this too, you want to just don't hold down the back button because it will mess up the formatting. So discovery call. Now the only fields we want to modify are the assigned user ID, the calendar ID, location ID, contact ID, and start and end time. So we'll start with the assigned user ID. Now what is this? Basically, this is the team member that we're assigning to, and it is the same ID that we just used before to check the availability of the individual staff. So in this case, let's use my availability. So over here, and swap that out. Calendar ID will be the same as we had before. So it'll be calendar ID. The location ID is the ID of your account or where it lives. So over here, we can see the location in the URL when we are in our space. And we can find the location ID by getting these characters that are after it. So go over here, replace that location ID. The contact ID, so this is the contact ID of the client that you want to book. So in GoHighLevel, you want to make sure that you have your contact already in the system. There are ways that you can automate it to automatically create new contacts as you get new calls, but for simplicity's sake, we'll just choose a contact that's already in the system. So let's go to contacts, again in our main field, and just go to the first one. And the contact ID can be found in the URL by choosing the characters at the end of it. So let's go to contact ID, put that one in. Basically, if I create this booking, it's going to create it for this specific contact, John Master. Start and end time. So this is slightly different than the free slots because this one is now in UTC time. So as you'll remember before, sorry, not UTC time, this is in ISO 8601 format. When it has a Z at the end, it's at the standard time. But when you have a specific time zone, you can also put that on the end as well. So in our case, we're going to be using LA time because that's what this calendar is in. So let me just change those values around a little bit. So let's go 25. Let's make it September 2nd. And we want to go for 1:30. It's in 24-hour time as well, so make sure that you do not put in like 1:30 and then have it book early in the morning. So 7. And now let's do this one as well. So 25. So this is going to be our end time. And let's make that finish at 2 o'clock. So 1:30 to 2 o'clock. And let's go 7. So that is all the fields we should need. So let's give that a run. And invalid. So you will have to remove the R rule string, which gives you errors. So let's try that again. There we go. We've just booked an appointment now. So if we go back to our calendar, we should see that appointment is now come in and it's been booked. Awesome. And it's been booked under my ID as well because we used my user ID. So how do we do this in make.com? It's very similar to what we've already done here. What I'll do is I'll just copy this. But we're going to do it slightly different this time because in the free slots, we had our calendar hard-coded into the URL. But just like we did for the milliseconds, I want to dynamically populate them. Just makes it easier because then you can put it into one place at the start and then you don't have to worry about going in through the big body of code and updating it in all different places. So it's a good habit to get into. So let's just call this one book appointment. And what variables do we want to set? Well, we want to have all the variables that we had before. So we had our calendar ID, and we'll just get all this information just straight from here. So location. You might be wondering why do it first over here in the high-level API reference. It's just quicker to just get verified, just to verify that you're actually getting data before putting into make.com, because if something doesn't work, then okay, it's an issue with the API. But if something doesn't work in make.com, you might wonder, is it an issue with make, my routine? It just helps verify your data first before moving forward. So contact ID, team member ID, and again that will be this one. Next we want to have our booking time. So and I'll just chuck in one that I prepared earlier. Go first at 12:30. And this is in the ISO format. So this format, I'm putting it in right now, hard-coded, but you can populate this from a VAPI agent, a retail agent, or any calendar system. It might come in a slightly different format, so you'll have to make sure to use the format functions in order to make sure you get this specific format. Is that booking time? You also want to put in authorization. It's good to just put in everything over here. Authorization and version. So let's get all these from here. And I think that is all the information we have. So next what we want to do is we want to calculate the end time. So the way we can do that is by creating a set multiple variables function. And this time, I'll rename this to make it clearer, but this was the start end time in MS, because we were using millisecond format in order to get the times into the check availability slot. But for this case, we want to have start end times in ISO format. So we'll call it that and just put in an underscore to make it consistent. Now the start time, well, we've already got the first one, start time, which we calculated from the booking time, so we don't have to do anything there, but it makes it easier to understand if you've got the right variable name. And for the end time, we can just add 5 days onto, oh, sorry, not 5 days, 5-day meeting. It's a long meeting. We can add 30 minutes onto it using the add minutes function and then 30. So let's go end time ISO. Next, what we want to do is our book appointment. So let's get rid of all this and let's go back to our command. And then we copy the first URL. We're going to make this one a post method. Authorization, yeah, it's good practice to just replace it with what you've put in the first section. So authorization, version. We don't need this user ID field in this one. We also want to have the accept and content. So hang on. The accept and the content type is application JSON. So accept, and these are headers as well. They're slightly different to what we had before in the free slots. And then for the body type, we want it raw and then JSON. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our body that we sent and chuck that into here. And now we're going to replace all the fields with the fields that we populated dynamically. So assigned user ID, that was our team member ID. Then we also have the calendar ID. Then we also want our location ID. I should be double clicking it because I'm doing it that way. There we go. Whoops. No, I had the right ID before. Contact ID. Start time, we're going to then pull in the start time that we calculated. Start time ISO. And then the end time. And I think all the other settings are correct. So now if we give that a run, time will be booked again. We've booked for 12:30 on the 1st. So that should run now. Perfect. So if we go back to our calendar and we go to a first, we should see another booking come in. There we go. That's our discovery call. It's been booked in for Monday at 12:30. So this is obviously a very basic example showing the start of just checking availability and making a booking. Obviously, in a real system, you can build it out to be a bit more complex than that. So in this example, we've got a webhook coming in from retail. You can come in from retail for Clappy with the user's requested time. So they've asked, hey, do you have availability this time? And then we're setting the parameters similar to how I set these variables over here. And then we can put the available slots that get returned, again, using that free slots function into a JSON to then have the AI work out what are the nearest slots and is this available? If it's available, then tell the user, yes, this is available. If it's not available, give them the nearest slots. And then from there, once they have got the data they need, they can then say, yep, we want to book. And we can go into another routine. This one's not live right now, but where we can bring in our data, set the parameters again. We can search to see if the contact so the user might have provided a phone number. We can see if they're a contact in our system using the standard GoHighLevel routines. Then if they exist, we can update them. If they don't, we can create them. And then we can go and use our booking function to book them in as a appointment and then notify them of that as well at the end. So you can build these out into more complex flows. Also, another one that you can do is when you're checking the availability of the calendar and you're using a round robin calendar, remember that it will always get all the slots available. So if there was a team member in there with an available slot, it will get it. This also means that when you go to book the appointment, you want to make sure that you are booking it to a team member that has availability. And so in this case, you have our first one where we're doing a full check, where we're getting all the availabilities. When you go to book it, you could put in another module for the get free slots to make sure that you're getting a team member which actually has available slots. So you can build it out just to be a bit more reliable and make sure you're not double booking anymore. But yeah, that's basically how you check and book a calendar in, how you use the V2 API for GoHighLevel in order to check availability of the calendar and also book events. This is again using the private integration API method. You can use OAuth as well, which is recommended for more longer term cases, especially when you're scaling. It's a very similar process, except in that one, you have to be on a marketplace and then you set your scopes similar to how we did before, and then you get a client secret, client ID, and from there you can make an OAuth request and set that connection up in order to do it. It's a little bit more involved. This one just gets you up and running a bit quicker. And also if you don't have access to marketplace, maybe you're on a sub account, you can do it this way. So yeah, that's basically how you do it. And if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments and I'll try to answer as soon as I can. Otherwise, have a wonderful day. Thank you.